that need to be secured through struggle, through some kind of sweat, through some kind of application. But now, I want to just reflect, and there's a word which I had to spend 10 years trying to spell correctly, but then, of course, I was able to get my students to quote it back. I don't want to sound too ethnocentric. But I'm now going to intellectually justify a certain degree of ethnocentricity about our city. Because there is a theme which I'm enormously proud of. There are other places. My wife tells me that she's from Sunderland. Right?
I mean, she's not.
Where?
She's a massive.
But the fact is, when you think about our city, the histories of Liverpool and New York are in many respects very much related. In fact, at the end of the 17th century, now Alan, you've got to be careful here, because another kind of obsession that I have is going to be referred to in a moment, and this could go on all night.
It's fucking not.
I'm obsessed with C12, H22, O11.
Sugar.
But anyway, at the end of the 17th century, Liverpool was a sleepy, insignificant fishing village. It had been eclipsed for 400 years by Chester, for God's sake. And then two commodities, sugar and slaves, transformed Liverpool. 18th century transatlantic takeoff. But the thing I want to reflect about, and it influences our musicality, it influences our culture, it influences our music, because Paul Denoy made the point, and I agree, that Liverpool is not just a place where music happens. Liverpool is a reason why music happens. And the other reason in terms of diaspora, why music happens, is to do with this statistic. Clarence Dock. Go down and look at the gates. Through these gates, past most of the 1,300,000 Irish migrants who fled from the Great Famine and took ship to Liverpool in the years 1845 to 1852. The overwhelming Catholic famine migrants who composed that second diaspora that would reshape the life, the class, the culture of our city. Just briefly, as a build-up to our final song, because to what extent was Mr. John Lennon, who used to be my alter ego? But by the way, I must be the only person of my age, right, who can candidly admit to the fact that I didn't go for a bevy with John. But
if you did, he would have bought it.
That's one of my former recalcitrant students. In fact, he was so recalcitrant I fucking failed the fucker. But the statistics I've just read out there relate to a comment that Niall Griffiths made. He said, Ireland runs through Liverpool like a seam of coal. In the accent, the musicality, the lexical wordplay, the swagger. Swagger? And the lack of self-censure when it comes to displaying emotion. You know, we're always extremes, the best and the worst. Oh, John and Kevin can confirm that. They were a bit younger than me, but I always remember listening to me mum and my Auntie Mary having a conversation. And my mum says, about my dad, nah, the worst thing he ever did was to come back from sea. And my Auntie Mary says, and you think Henry's bad? He can't be as bad as Tommy Humphries, he's shit. That's a terrible thing to say that, but you know what I'm getting at is we do indulge. We're not a temperate people, are we? We're not very temperate. All the extremes of emotion, but that's why this wonderful man, John Lennon. I've got a son actually, who now lives in New York. I've got a few sons actually, they disown me. But I was able, because I changed his nappies, to go over and spend 3 weeks as a pensionista in Manhattan. And I had this picture of my dad when he docked in Manhattan, but I also had a picture of John Lennon. And John Lennon said more about Liverpool and more about how music can change and shape people's lives. Those fusions of Irishness and American. And of course, they didn't just conquer America. They conquered many people's hearts. Okay, there's more to my generation of twist and shout and all the rest of the stuff. You know? But Lennon was a troubadour like this man.
John Lennon said from his hotel bed, we're all Christ inside, but what Hitler too, he's inside you, and I'm being kind, cause we love and love, yeah we give out hate, we sing for peace and retaliate, you're a lover and a mother and a brother and a fighter too. Jesus said love was so easy, all hearts have my hand, look at me, he said you, don't look to me, they were there, you and me, having true, words and hearts, they're saying things like I got to say goodbye, everyone knows to make your heart and free, I'm so grateful, one single friends, at the same time. John Lennon said, better fix your head, no it's down to you. If you wanna go, then heal yourself, that's how scripts never grow. Cause you go inside, you stay inside, by the time the waste is done. How can you change the world if you never change the world? Jesus said from the soul, all one time I have looked at me, you said you don't want to see everyone. You and me, I'm two worlds of hearts, in a shade, make that heart, I got to say hearts, everyone can make your heart breathe. I'm so grateful, once we were friends, at the same time. When you're free, our duality, the hero inside you, you're a better too. Just like Jesus said, love was so easy. All one time I had looked at me, he said you love me like everyone included you and me. Jesus said love was so easy. All one time I had looked at me, he said you love me everyone included you and me.
That's the speaker.